Subscribe to Man Told for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. The ring box in my pocket was still unopened. Tonight, I planned to place it on the table, beside a warm dinner, to celebrate 10 years of marriage. But before I could say a word, her phone lit up. A message. Cold. Short. Cruel. I won't be home tonight. Don't call. I froze. The words hit me like ice water to the chest. My heart stopped for a moment. My hand shook. The spoon slipped, clattered against the tile. The sound echoed through the empty kitchen, like a funeral bell. For my own love. In front of me, the table still steamed. The chicken soup I made for her, growing cold. White roses in a vase, leaning gently in the breeze. I thought I'd see her smile tonight. When she opened the ring box, instead, all I saw was an ending, delivered in a single line. No explanation. No mercy. She walked into the kitchen soon after. Our eyes met. She tried to hide the phone, but it was too late. Her lips trembled, her face pale with guilt. I didn't ask. I didn't accuse. Only silence. Heavy. Suffocating. I looked down at my hand, clutching the ring box. The cold metal cut into my palm, like her message had carved into my heart. I had prepared to celebrate a decade together, but all I held now was the truth. She no longer belonged to this family. In that moment, I heard every tick of the clock. Slow, heavy. The room froze. Even the wind outside seemed to stop. I had never known silence could be this terrifying. That night, I didn't take another bite. I sat at the table, staring at the empty chair across from me, until the candle on the table flickered out. The ring box still in my hand, unopened, a bitter monument to the innocence I had just lost. Looking back, I know that moment was the true ending. I don't know what to call it. A betrayal, a silent goodbye, or simply a truth I was too slow to see. But I know this. The dinner I prepared to celebrate 10 years of love became the funeral of my own marriage. My name is Mark Burns, 37 years old, construction engineer. My life has always been concrete, steel, and high rises. The work is tough, but it gives me pride. I could point at a building and say to my son, "See that? Your father built that." I was never good with words, never romantic, but I believed I was a family man, a man who could build a home, stronger than any tower I ever designed. I met Rebecca in college. Back then, I was just a shy kid. She was the light that lit up the whole room. I'll never forget the first time we talked. She laughed and said, "You don't talk much, but your eyes say plenty." My face turned red, but those words pulled me closer to her. A year later, I finally found the courage to ask, and by some miracle, she said yes. We married soon after graduation. The wedding was simple, no glamour. But when Rebecca walked down the aisle, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. When friends asked why I loved her, I always answered the same. Because with her, I feel enough. For 10 years, we lived in a small suburban house. Nothing special, just a beige 2-story home, a balcony where she grew white roses every morning, and a front yard where my son Ethan chased a plastic ball across the grass. I thought happiness was that simple. Just opening the door and hearing my boy's laughter. That was enough. Rebecca was a graceful woman. She managed our tight finances, kept the house warm. I remember when I was injured at work, 3 months in the hospital. She worked, took care of me, carried Ethan, still learning to walk. One night I woke up to find her asleep in the chair beside me, her face pale, her hand still holding mine. That night, I made a vow. I'll spend the rest of my life never failing this woman. Ethan, my pride, 7 years old, his mother's brown eyes, my wide forehead. He loves drawing, Lego, and every evening when I came home, he ran to me with the brightest smile. One day, he handed me a picture. 3 people, me, Rebecca, and him, under a red-roofed house, smoke rising from the chimney. He asked, "Dad, this is our house, right? It'll always be like this, won't it?" I smiled, ruffled his hair. I had no idea those words would haunt me later. We had one rule, family dinner together, no matter how busy, at least 1 meal a day. Winter nights with hot soup, Ethan chattering about school, Rebecca placing food on our plates. I often sat quietly, just watching, telling myself, this is happiness. I wasn't perfect. Sometimes I came home too late. Once I found Ethan asleep on the sofa. His ball slipped from his hand. My chest tightened. I knew I was missing moments I could never get back. I promised myself to be better, to give more time to family, so my son would never wait in vain. Rebecca often called me dry, and maybe I didn't say sweet words, but I believed love was in action. Fixing the stuck cabinet door so it wouldn't annoy her, saving the last bite she liked, driving her to work in the rain. I didn't write poetry. I didn't plan surprises, but I believed steadiness was the greatest gift a man could give. Then I began to notice the small changes. Rebecca coming home late, saying it was meetings, a new perfume, dresses more elaborate, different hair. Sometimes she smiled at her phone, locked it quickly when I walked near. I told myself not to doubt. It's work or friends, but the unease grew inside me. One night, while clearing the table, Ethan asked, "Dad, why is Mom always late now?" I froze, only managed to pat his head. "Mom's just busy, son." But inside, a crack had opened. Still, I chose to believe. We had survived too much together. Surely we wouldn't fall apart over small changes. I tried to keep the dinners warm, keep Ethan smiling, keep Rebecca from worry. For our 10th anniversary, I wanted something special. I bought a new ring, simple but meaningful, a reminder that love was still here, still alive. I prepared dinner, chicken soup, candles, white roses. In my mind, I saw Rebecca's smile as she opened the box. I thought we would remember everything we had once survived, but I never imagined. On the night I placed all my trust on that table, a single text would erase 10 years of marriage. Ethan once held that drawing, asked, "Our house will always be like this, right, Dad?" I said yes. But now, every time I look at it, I see it differently. Not a promise, but a prophecy that failed. The drawing is still on the wall, but the family inside is broken. I thought a new ring could hold 10 years together, but the truth is, it was only enough to bury a love already dead. I used to think a family was like a house built with my own hands. Cracks in the wall, a leaky roof. I believed if I fixed them, the house would stand strong again. But I was wrong. Some cracks don't appear in bricks or beams. They open inside the hearts of the people living there. And once they start, no cement can seal them. It began with things that seemed harmless. Rebecca coming home late, saying the project at work was dragging on. I didn't doubt her. I just said, "Drive safe." But it kept happening. I noticed strange perfumes on her clothes, new dresses I had never seen, a hairstyle she once said she hated. I told myself, maybe she just wanted to refresh her look. But one thing I couldn't ignore. Every time I walked near, she shut her phone, turned it face down. One night, I walked in while she was laughing at her screen. I called her name. She jumped, flustered. Just work email," she muttered, then quickly turned it off and disappeared into the bathroom. I stood there, staring at the glow still shining on her pillow. I could have picked it up, but my hands trembled, as if one touch would shatter everything I believed in. Still, I tried to trust. I told myself I was paranoid. To chase away the doubt, I bought her favorite cake. Strawberry. She once told me, "This is my cure for sadness." I came home early, put it in the fridge, waited for her. When she saw it, she forced a smile. "Oh, I'm not hungry. Maybe tomorrow?" The cake sat there, forgotten, its cream melting into a mess. The next morning, I threw it in the trash. The lid slammed shut, and it felt like I had just thrown away the little hope I was still clinging to. Rebecca grew more distant. One evening, she said there was a company party. I nodded, didn't press. But later, clearing the table, I found a taxi receipt. The pickup address was miles from her office. I clenched the paper in my fist, wrinkling it, my heart pounding. I could have called. I could have driven out. I did nothing. I shoved the receipt into a drawer, a silent piece of evidence I was too afraid to face. That night she came home, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. "Was the party fun?" I asked. "Yeah, just normal," she said. I nodded, but nothing felt normal anymore. One morning, as I left for work, she forgot her phone on the kitchen table. It rang, a strange number. I didn't plan to answer, just wanted to silence it. But when I touched it, a man's voice came through. Warm, familiar, intimate. Did you sleep well? I missed you so much last night. I froze. My hand shook so hard, I dropped the spoon into my coffee cup. The metal rang sharp in the empty kitchen. I dropped the phone, as if it burned me. The room spun. My chest locked tight, breath broken. Just then, Rebecca walked down the stairs. Our eyes met. She knew instantly what I had heard, but neither of us said a word. That day, I moved like a ghost. The drawings in front of me blurred. I drove home, not even remembering the roads I'd taken. All I heard in my head, that voice, on repeat, I missed you so much. That night, I stood outside the bedroom door. Water ran in the bathroom. I rehearsed a dozen questions. What are you hiding? Who called you? Do you still love me? But when she walked out, hair damp, and lay down with her back to me, I said nothing. I sat at the edge of the bed, staring at her back in the dim light. For the first time in 10 years, I felt like a stranger. In my own home, the silence between us was no longer comforting. It was thick, suffocating, like a wall. And me, a man who built walls for a living, didn't know how to tear this one down. A few days later, I tried one more time. I made chicken soup, her favorite. I called Ethan to the table, hoping his laughter would bring life back to dinner. Rebecca came home late, tired. Still, I pulled out a chair for her. We ate in silence. I was about to speak, and then her phone lit up. The words flashed clear. I miss your hug from last night. I froze, my hand stiff on the spoon. The soup in my mouth turned bitter. Rebecca panicked, snatched the phone, turned it off. Ethan looked at me, then at her, his innocent eyes searching. He whispered, "Dad, why doesn't Mom look at you at dinner?" The question cut straight through me. I forced a smile, patted his head. "Mom's just tired, son." But my voice cracked. That dinner turned cold. Every clink of the spoon against the bowl sounded harsh. I sat there, watching Rebecca avoid my eyes, watching my son eat happily, unaware, and I felt myself disappear. From my own table, I had tried to believe, tried to hold on, tried to lie to myself, that it was just a misunderstanding. But the signs, the call, and now the message in plain sight, they all formed a picture too clear. The woman I trusted most no longer belonged fully to this family. I sat in silence, listening to the clock in the living room. Each tick, counting down, to the moment everything breaks. I knew, from the instant her phone lit up at dinner, my family had cracked. And once a crack begins, it doesn't stop, not until the whole house falls. After that night, the night her phone lit up at dinner, the whole house felt different. The clock on the wall, no longer steady, each tick hammered into my skull. The kitchen door creaked. The stair groaned under my step. Even Rebecca's breath beside me in bed, short, shallow, like someone who didn't want to stay long. I tried to keep the routine, drove Ethan to school, smiled at neighbors, signed papers at the site. But inside, I was a driver with worn brakes, knowing one day I'd crash. One evening, I tried to bridge the gap. I made her mint tea, her favorite for sleep. 2 cups, soft music playing. When she came home, I offered her a seat. She took a sip, barely, then said, "I'm tired, I'll go up." The cup sat steaming, thin smoke rising, like a whisper of rejection. I watched it cool, and felt my chest grow cold with it. The days went on. She said she went to Target, but came home without the milk, without the tape I asked for. Then one morning, a rideshare alert popped up. The drop-off was 10 miles away, not near any store. I checked the map. It led to a hotel district. I shut the phone, sat frozen in the car, sweat running down my back. That afternoon, I called her. A man answered, breathing close to the mic. "Hello, sorry," then hung up. I sat at the site, machines drilling around me, the noise tearing through my skull. My hands shook on the steering wheel. Calloused hands, still not steady. That night, I played Lego with Ethan. He looked up suddenly. "Dad, why doesn't Mom kiss you anymore?" Today, she smelled like the store lady. I choked, forced a smile. "She's just tired, son," he pouted. Then leaned in, planted a kiss on my cheek. "Then I'll kiss you instead." I laughed. But inside, my heart clenched tight. I turned away, pretending to grab a tissue. His innocent question hurt more than that man's voice. The tension in the house grew heavier. Rebecca came home late. each time with a perfume I didn't recognize. One night, while she showered, her phone buzzed. The message lit the screen. Tonight, same place. Hearts. I froze. My hand hovered, then pulled back. If I opened it, everything would end. Not long after, Ethan spilled his milk. The glass shattered. I jumped, shouted, "What are you doing?" He froze, eyes wide, tears welling. Rebecca rushed in, held him. Her back turned to me. Regret hit me instantly. I dropped to my knees, gathered the shards. One cut my hand, blood spreading in the milk. "I'm sorry," I whispered. Again and again. Empty words. Ethan whispered back, "It's okay, Dad. I'll clean it." His words cut deeper. A child comforting his father, while his father was too broken to stand. The breaking point came with her coat pocket. A hotel key card, tucked with a note. Quartzi dos, 8 p.m. Not my handwriting. I held it in my fingers, shaking. Then put it back, quietly. My body cold, my head burning. That night, I drove, followed her. Headlights off in the city. I saw her walk into a glass hotel entrance, beside a man. They didn't hold hands. They didn't kiss. But their eyes met, and I knew I wasn't part of her world anymore. I sat in the car, my palms wet on the wheel, my chest heavy with stone. I lowered the window, cold air rushing in, carrying smoke and river mist. In my mind, Ethan's drawing appeared. The red-roofed house, with smoke rising straight from the chimney. But outside, the smoke bent. Broken by the wind, I shut my eyes. Throat dry, chest crushed. I never stepped into the hotel. I stayed in the car, listening to my heartbeat, like a funeral drum. When I felt I'd explode, I turned the key, drove home. Ethan was asleep on the sofa, hugging his pillow. I carried him to bed, pulled the blanket to his chest. On the nightstand, our family photo smiled back, mocking me. I touched the glass, cold as truth. The next morning, Rebecca put on makeup early. "I'm going out," she said. I only nodded. The door shut behind her. The sound sharp, final. My phone buzzed. A message. "I'm here. You coming down?" I didn't reply. I placed the phone face down. In the silence, I heard my heartbeat shift. No longer frantic, but steady, like footsteps, walking me to a decision. I knew something was coming, and our family would never be the same again. For months, I lived in suspicion. Tiny details, piling up like shards of glass in my chest. Rebecca leaned on sleeping pills. Sometimes, mid-dinner, her hand shook, and she'd set her spoon down. "Just tired," she'd say. At night, I heard her turn, breath ragged, sometimes crying in her sleep. I saw it, and I ignored it. That silence became the trap that convinced me of the worst. That night, I waited in the living room, a small blue ring box in my hand. I turned it over, its edges cut into my palm. Once, I thought it was the key. Now it felt like a stone, pulling me under. The door opened. Rebecca stepped in, her face caught in the hall light. Makeup rushed, and her eyes widened when she saw me awake. "Rebecca," I rasped. "Where were you?" She blinked. Then, "Work meeting." "You know that." My hand clenched the ring box, blood rushing to my face. "Work meeting." "Then why?" When I called, did a man answer? The question hit like a hammer. She sighed, dropped her bag. A notebook slid out, a prescription poking from the edge. I picked it up. Sertraline. Antidepressants. My chest hollowed. Rebecca sat down, hands twisted together, her eyes once avoiding, now breaking wide open. "Mark, I haven't betrayed you. That man, he's my therapist." I froze, weightless, air trapped in my throat. "Therapist?" The word scraped out. She nodded, voice trembling. "I've been drowning for months, sleepless, anxious, afraid. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd think less of me." The man who answered was my doctor. He rents hotel rooms, to stay discreet, and the text with a heart was his assistant. "I swear, Mark, I've never betrayed you." In that moment, the evidence I had hoarded, perfume, late nights, hotel cards, all shifted. They didn't vanish, but they bent, took a different shape, and I felt both, relief and shame. "Then why?" My voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" Tears welled in her eyes. "The worst part wasn't your doubt. It's that you never asked You chose silence and let suspicion eat us alive. Her words hit harder than any affair. I saw myself, nights spying from the car, scrolling through her phone with my eyes, pretending calm for my son. I could have asked, but I didn't. I let silence speak for me. "Rebecca," I whispered, "do you still love me?" She lowered her gaze, hair hiding half her face. The pause stretched, like centuries. Then softly, "I don't know anymore." My knees trembled, my chest crushed tight. The room spun. That answer, short, but crueler than any confession of infidelity. An affair, at least, gives you a reason to fight. But I don't know. It means the love itself has dissolved. Upstairs, small footsteps. Ethan rubbed his eyes. "Dad? Mom? What's wrong?" Rebecca pulled him close, hiding her tears. I saw them, and I felt a wall colder and thicker than any concrete I'd ever built. I opened the drawer, took out the ring box, set it on the table. "Rebecca," my voice cracked. "I thought this would save us. But maybe it's only good enough to bury a love that's already dead." She broke. Her sobs weren't the cries of betrayal, but of exhaustion. Ethan held her tight, and my heart shattered into pieces too small to name. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the porch, the insects humming, the air cool, but my chest burning. Her words circled me. I don't know, dangling between love and not love, truth and lie, and killing me slowly. At dawn, the gray light spread across the porch, and I saw the twist. It wasn't the doctor, wasn't the hotels. The twist was me. I had killed this home, not with betrayal, but with silence. I chose suspicion over trust, and silence over words, and silence grew, until it swallowed love whole. I lifted my eyes. My shadow stretched long on the porch, pulling toward the door. Inside, Rebecca and Ethan were still there. But between us, I saw it, a crack, unmendable, and I knew, from this moment on, we were heading into a confrontation we could no longer avoid. After the night, Rebecca whispered, "I don't know." The air in our home changed. It didn't explode in shouting. It froze, like a lake under ice. We still lived, still breathed, still shared a roof. But between us, a wall of frost, so thick, even our breath turned to mist. Mornings, Rebecca rose early, made breakfast for Ethan. I tried to help, but when I reached for the pan, she only said, "Already done." Not cold, not warm, just a small cut, enough to make me step back. "Stand still." Ethan watched us, eyes flicking between mother and father, then lowered his head, a child, learning silence from his father. At night, Rebecca lingered in Ethan's room. Through the crack in the door, I heard her voice reading, low and heavy. I sat in the living room, lamplight trembling on the ceiling, watching the shadow of mother and son blend together. I was no longer part of that picture. When she stepped out, we nodded, the nod of strangers, not husband and wife. A week later, I set a cup of mint tea on the table. My hands shook, but I spoke. "Rebecca, we can't keep living like this. I don't want Ethan to grow up in a house of silence and suspicion." She looked up, eyes drained. "What do you want, Mark?" I inhaled, chest tight. "I want to know if we still have a chance. I'll go with you. To therapy. Anywhere. I want to fix this." For a second, I thought I saw light in her eyes. Then she turned away, her sigh sharp as a blade. "It's too late, Mark." The words struck like a fist to the gut. I slammed the table. The cup shattered. "No, I don't believe it. I love you, Rebecca. I never stopped. Please, don't leave us." My voice cracked, broke into sobs. Rebecca closed her eyes, tears sliding down. "You love me, but you let silence speak for you. For months I drowned, and you only watched. I'm tired, Mark." Her words, the final nail sealing a coffin. I collapsed, face in my hands. A broken man. Small footsteps creaked. Ethan stood, clutching his teddy. "Mom, Dad, are you fighting?" I wiped my face, knelt down, pulled him close. "No, Ethan, we're just talking." But Rebecca sobbed, and Ethan's wide eyes filled with fear. He hugged us both, tiny arms shaking, burning, trying to hold us together. And I knew this wound wasn't just ours. It carved itself into our son's heart. The next day, we sat in the lawyer's office. Cold air, Paper on the table. Divorce in bold letters. A knife in my eyes. Who will have custody of the child? The lawyer asked. Rebecca and I looked at each other. Her eyes, fear. Mine, defeat. Rebecca will care for Ethan, I said, hoarse. But I want to see him. Anytime I can. She nodded, tears falling. Not a victory. A surrender. That evening, I took Ethan to the park. Moonlight silver on his face. He held my hand. Dad, why don't you and Mom eat together anymore? I forced a smile. My chest ripped apart. Because we're trying to find a way. To be happier, son. He nodded, believed, and ran after fireflies. Happiness to him was nothing like the pain tearing through me. When Rebecca packed her things, rain fell hard. She folded clothes, placed them in boxes. I stood, silent. I wanted to run, to hold her, to scream, "Don't go, Rebecca." But I didn't. I only clenched the ring box in my pocket until my hand went numb. At the door, with Ethan in her arms, I managed one word, Rebecca. She turned, eyes red. I wanted to say 1,000 things, but only whispered, "Take care of him." She nodded. Ethan sobbed, ran into my arms. I held him tight, our tears mixing. Then the door closed. The rain poured. The house echoed with emptiness. Her chair, empty. Her scent, gone. I placed the ring box on the table, opened it. The small stone gleamed under the light. Once it was hope. Now, a relic of love, long dead. I shut the box, slid it into the drawer, then walked to Ethan's room. He was asleep, face still streaked with tears. I sat by his bed, hand on his blanket, listening to his steady breath, and I cried in silence, tears falling into his pillow, into his dreams. That night, I understood. The battle isn't with Rebecca. It's with myself, the man who let silence murder his marriage. And from here on, I must learn to speak, or lose. The rest of my life, the night Rebecca left, the house drowned in silence. I sat alone in the living room. Before me, an empty chair, the one where she used to read. The lamp cast its yellow glow, hollow and bare, so empty. I felt I could reach out and touch the absence itself. I opened the drawer, pulled out the ring box. The ring still lay inside, cold, unforgiving, shining with cruelty. I placed it on the table, then set my journal beside it. 2 things, side by side. One, a promise broken. The other, the words of a man who only knew how to love in silence. And for the first time, I saw silence had a shape. It sat before me, in cold metal and voiceless ink. Days followed. I learned to live differently. Mornings, driving Ethan to school. Evenings, cooking for him, reading to him before bed. I no longer hid behind work or a phone screen. When Ethan asked, "Dad, why doesn't Mom eat dinner with us anymore?" I held him close, whispered, "She still loves you. She just doesn't live here." His eyes, innocent, believing every word, and my heart, twisted in pain. At night, with only the clock ticking, I opened my journal again. I wrote the words I had never spoken, my fear of losing her, my cowardice in silence, the nights she turned her back, and I only stared at the ceiling. I wrote for myself, for the man who lost love, not to betrayal, but to fear of speaking. Slowly, I understood. Rebecca didn't leave because she stopped loving me. She left because she was too tired to love a man who would not speak. And I understood too. Love doesn't vanish. It only changes shape. It lives in Ethan's wet eyes when he clung to both of us. It lives in Rebecca's broken nod at the doorway. And it still lives here, in me, as I learn to love my son, with words, with presence, with a vow, never to repeat the same mistake. One evening, as we walked, Ethan looked up and asked, "Dad, do you think I'll be a good man someday?" I squeezed his small hand. My voice broke. "You will, son, if you dare to speak what you feel." He smiled, ran ahead, leaving me behind with heavy steps and a heart somehow lighter. That night, I placed the ring box and the journal on Rebecca's empty chair, turned off the lamp, let the pale moonlight fall across them. An empty chair, a closed ring box, a journal unfinished. That was my truth now. I sat beside Ethan, watching him sleep. I brushed his hair, whispered, I thought losing her meant losing everything. But I see now, loss doesn't end us. It teaches us to begin again. I closed my eyes, let the darkness surround me, and in that silence, I knew one chapter was over, but another had opened. The chapter of a man, learning to speak, learning to love, learning to move forward with his scars.